Hiya Meddlers, and welcome to episode 7 of me making a game in Blender. Now I said that pretty quick, that is episode 7 we're on already. God, time flies, doesn't it really? Right, today you've noticed I've changed a few things here, and I'm going to talk through them all in a minute. I'm just going to explain what I've done. So I'll run the game again. So if the player doesn't pick up anything, you won't be able to continue with the game. I've made sure of that. The game will end now. See, it ends because you just haven't picked anything up. But I'm going to have a message screen saying you failed to pick up 2 pickups, you cannot continue. At least 2 pickups. It was going to be 1 pickup, but now it's going to be 2. Okay, so yeah, so to get a pickup you have to pick one of those icosphere things up, the circular things. If you don't pick anything up, then you can just go through a barrier. But so you pick up these spheres, you get barriers in the way. But I didn't pick up at least 2, so I've got to pick up 2 to go on. So I pick up one, oops, pick up 1 there. I'll try and do it, pick up 1 there, and okay, I picked up 2. So now, once you've done that, I've freed up the keyboard now, so the player can actually move forward and back themselves. So now they can actually jump on this button here, and it releases the player, the character. This is the computer AI. Now he's got to move back to the beginning of the game. Now if you've got obstacles in the way, I haven't opened the pit so he doesn't fall through there. But the obstacles in the way will crash into this one and he'll die, and it'll cause the game to finish, so it's game over for us. So it's a bit of a problem really. So what we've got to do is, I didn't get enough pickups, so the game will restart. So you see that red ball at the end of the level there, I've got to basically get that, and you see why. I've mentioned it before in other episodes. See, I've got a barrier in the way here, so I hit the button. Now I've got to get to this red ball. This is my ammo, so now I can fire. You can't just fire straight away now, you have to pick that ammo up. That's what I've done. So you fired the barrier, so that AI character can go through it now. That one hasn't been activated, so you can go through that. I didn't activate these ones, so I've got less of a score, so I can complete the game. And you get to the beginning here, and I'll say like, well done, you've completed the game as well. Sometimes if you go too fast along here, the cube will just keep going and going and going, and you can't have any input in it whatsoever. But that rarely happens lately, so I'm quite happy with that. Oh, it's actually working for now. I can't believe that. When I was testing this out earlier, it kept bugging up, and I was thinking, oh dear, this is never going to work, is it? See, I can't fire at the moment. I'm trying to fire because you've got to pick up the red pickup for the firing mechanism. See, I didn't pick up enough pickups here, so it won't let me continue with the game. That's where I'm going to have the screen saying you didn't pick up enough to help your player or the computer character. Right, let's get on with some logic bricks, and I'll show you how I've done this. A couple of things have changed since last time, as you may have noticed with this. I've added with a trigger here, I'll call it trigger now if I didn't before. I've just made it wider because when the character, the player I should say, travels right across here, sometimes if you went left or right to it, it'd skip it because it was in the middle before. This was bunched up in the middle, so I've made it go right across the path so the player has to go right over it. I thought that's a lot safer doing that. All I've done is I've just changed the width for the actual item itself. Just right mouse click on it, and I've just made it across the X axis because it's on the red axis there. And yeah, I put the 3 on there, so that is the width for that, so it goes right across. That's all I've done. Right, okay, I'm going to go through this systematically now. How I've another thing, I've changed the player character, as you've noticed, to a cube. Using a head, I could not work the physics out properly, or the collision detection I had problems with altogether. The head just kept falling out the scene. It went through the floor, the scene. It just wouldn't interact with objects very well. So the reason for that is the cube is easier for now, and this is going to be kept simple for now. I'm not going to have loads of bone structures or things like that because I can't be dealing with that right now because it takes so much time. It does take a while to edit YouTube videos as well on top of that, so I thought that's why I've got to have an easier project, but something that's going to be fun. Right, so the first thing we're going to do today is we're going to work on the door 1. So when the player character hits this trigger that I just showed you, that blue character hits the trigger down here, this door has got to be available. You're going to see it's going to be red for now until the character has picked up at least 2 of those icospheres. It's going to stay red, and it's going to only turn green when they've picked up at least 2 of them. So we're going to put the code in there for that. So in this one, we're going to put an always in. It's going to always check the status. So I'll put in, it's going to pulsate it, so it's going to keep checking every few seconds or milliseconds or whatever it is. I don't know. So we go and I just know enough to get this going really. So we go property, and just from trial and error in the past, I've just pressing these buttons and looking on help forums of different things, and this is the way I work best. So what we're going to do is we're going to import all the values from the player cube now, because I could put this code in the player cube, but it's just going to make it too messy. So I'm going to copy values from the player cubes. I'll show you what I mean. We go to player, we can access player through this. We go copy player, the object player. In there we had 4 properties. So in this one we want pickup, because we concentrate on pickups collected. We've got to add a value into this one itself. We call this pickup as well. It doesn't matter, they've got the same names because they're in different objects, so it doesn't, it's fine. So done pickup there. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up, so we go back to player properties, so we're going to pick up here, this bit here. So where's pick, it says pickup, we're just going to copy that value and you're just going to put it straight into the door value called pickup. That's all we're doing in this pickup here. So, and I'll show you why I'm doing that in a minute. So we're going to be looking at those values, we're going to be comparing them, that's what we'll be doing, so that's why we need to have that in here. So if we did all this in the player cube, there's just too many boxes in there, it's getting huge in there, so I'm just trying to do it in different ways. So we do interval, and we just do that property there, pickup, and so now we're saying they've got to at least pick up 20 points worth of pickup, so that means 2 pickups, because each pickup's worth 10 points, so 2 of them 20, so we do that, add and again, like normal. And then after that we'll add in a message that's going to say for door 2, because they've met that, so they've picked up 2 pickups, that means the door 2 is going to show up, the green door, which we haven't made yet. So we do a message and we're just going to put to door 2. It won't show up in the list because, like I say, we've got to physically create the door, so that's not going to be a problem. And we're going to add show up. Simple. Then we just do end object, because basically if we've met that what do you call it, scenario, we picked up the 2 pickups, it's going to show the green door, so we want the red door to end, because we don't want to see the red door anymore. You don't want to see red, you don't want to see red all the time, do you? So we just do end object, so that door has had its day when you've met that objective. Now now we're going to do another property here, we're going to add another property, and we're going to say we haven't reached the goal here, so by the time we've reached the target up here, which I'll get to in a minute, we do pick up property again, so we're going to look at the values. So we're going to say if we haven't reached at least 20, so I'll just put 0 and 10, so we haven't reached to 20, it's just my logic, I'm putting those figures. And we're going to have 2 things we're going to reason twice here. So it says if you haven't picked up enough points and the player has reached a certain position, so when they hit the trigger, this trigger is going to send a message we haven't set up yet saying player goal, so the door knows the player's got to this point here, and it's going to compare the values. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a message here, player goal, so it's going to receive the message player goal from the trigger and compare the 2 values to know what's going on. So we do that, that's it, and then we'll just have a restart scene. So if it doesn't like they haven't met the goal, it's just going to restart the game again. But eventually, like I say, I'm going to have not scene, scene. That's fine. So in the end, we're going to have screens telling people things, but for now it just restarts. You don't even notice it restarts all the time unless the queue goes back to the beginning. So we're going to change it eventually, but for now that is pretty much it. We'll do the screens at the end when we're polishing the game up. Okay, I'm just going through my notes, and I was going to release this video yesterday or last night at my usual time. I try and do a video a day, but this went terribly wrong, and I lost some of the things I had done. The code didn't work, and I tried to do the video, it just would not have it. I had to do so many retakes to get the code working, it's just a joke. I had to take things out, rename properties and message boxes, and yeah, it's having a bit of a nightmare. I mean, I can get the game working overall for me to play, but to film me making it and then get it to work, I just could not have it. I just could not name things properly yesterday, and I just got in a mess with it, to be honest. You have your off days, there's enough of that. Now we're going to make door 2, so we're just going to do duplicate objects on the left. It's already selected, so we're just going to do duplicate objects, click that, hit enter straight away, so it stays in its spot. Over here on the right panel it says door 1.001, just change it to door 2. Now it's showing the material of door 1, so we don't want that to happen, so we delete the material by pressing the X. We're going to add a new material, hit the diffuse, hit the green. It's going to be nice and green because it looks welcoming. I can't get my words out at the moment. And with transparency, we're going to put 0.500 so we can see through the door. Okay, this has copied all the values from door 1 here. So it says door 2. We don't want any of these values in here. Let's get a couple of these out of their way. Okay, so now we're going to door 2. So we need to put a message up to saying it's going to receive a message from saying show up. So we're going to, when it receives it from an item, the door is just going to appear. That's all we're going to have here. So we do message and we have show up. Simple as that. Okay, link that together, and so the visibility, we're going to make it visible because at the moment I haven't set that. So go into the physics here, and just click on the invisible. So it starts invisible, and this when it receives a message, it becomes visible. So that's all we've got to do there. And message is we'll have disappear as well, because later when I hung up a button that's going to send a message out, when we hit a button it's going to make the door disappear, so there's going to be no doors there, so that the computer character can travel to the start travelling that way. So we have message and disappear. It become apparent when I'm start adding these controls in. Disappear, and we'll just have end object. That's as basic as it gets at the moment. Not add object, that'd be a problem. Right, okay, save. And this doesn't need a property because I've just copied this door from the other one, so that's why I retained there. Okay, so that's number 2 done. Okay, third part now, we've got to sort the trigger out, which is this grey block as I've talked a lot about so far. So again, we want a collision with a player, which is already there from, this should have been there from the last tutorial. I'm hoping it was, I'm losing track now. Okay, right now, so now we're just going to add the controls for the player. We're going to send messages to the player cube. So we just add player and we'll add player. That should be done nicely. Whack that in there, whack that in there. Okay, in this one we're going to have can now move Y pos. That makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? So can now, and is that a capital? No. Move and pos. Okay, doesn't matter how you can, like I say, you can call this anything, like a cat got run over by a cow. It really doesn't matter, long as you just can reference these later on. If you need to call these up, you need to know what they were called. They've got to be spelt right. So basically now move. I've missed one out. I've got to put a Y in there, Y position. And I'll tell you why I'm doing this in a minute. So we have a positive and a negative one, and you'll see why. Put that in there, and that'll be negative. Okay. So when this blue player cube reaches this trigger here, I'm going to send a message out saying can now move in the Y position, which is this position. That's positive, and that this way is negative. So positive, negative. And now I'm telling them to do that because when the game starts, it's automated. The cube goes straight in the positive Y direction straight away. That's how we set the game. But when we hit this trigger, I want the player to have like full control over the cube. I didn't want them to have control on the this Y-axis before that point or when the game started, because they can cheat. If they come up to a barrier, they could slow the cube down and it make it easier for them. I don't want that to happen, so I thought when they get past the barriers, then they can take control. So I'm just saying now they can move backwards and forwards with the cube, or from our view, left and right, which is along the Y-axis and positive, negative. So that's all we're setting at the moment. And we're just telling the door 1 that we've reached a goal, so the door 1 can then make the decision to show the red, to show a green door or just restart the level. So that's what we're doing on this one, to add a message to door 1, which is important. So we'll just do door 1 there, and we just do player goal. Player goal is an important one. So we add that in as well to the mix, and then you can imagine we don't need this to detecting anything else, so it's rendered useless now. It's done its job, so it can just go off now and go into retirement until you reload the game up again, I suppose. That's it. So that is the that's that one. Well, you saw it in the beginning of this video. You had a little button you have to press to let the little computer character out. It's going to open the door. So when the the door. When you picked up all your pickups, the door goes red to green, and then that green door you're going to open. So that's what we're going to add now. So we're going to add mesh. We're going to add a button. So add a cube, and where's it placed at? Just place it randomly where the cursor was. Okay, I'm not going to be too neat about this. You don't need to be too neat at all. Just have it there. That'll do. Have it there. Okay, we're going to have it green so we know we're going to do something with it. We're not going to hide from it. If it's red, you might not want to press it. Could confuse the player actually. It might be a good idea having it red. But no, let's keep it like that. And we're going to name this button for obvious reasons. Might be more creative later. Saying the death plunger or something. Anyway, so we're going to add a collision on this now. So we're going to go collision, and we're going to add again, like always, the player. Oops, material again of the player, because it sort of works better that way for me. And we'll do and we'll add two messages and an end object. So we'll do message, and end object. Add all these up, and then I'll put the details in. So write that in there, and write that in there. Okay, now so the first message we're doing is to the character. So we just because when the door's opened, I want him to bolt out of here and be on his way. So now we're gonna add this command, go activate. Did I spell that right? Go activate. Yes, I have. And you might recall that we set this command up last time in the game with the actual header made, and this is the go activate. Like I say, we've been through this last tutorial. So he's just going to bolt straight out. He's going to head for this. I made a target for him to go for, which is this one here. He's going to home in on that basically. Char target. That's what he's going to head for. So he's going to go flying down this lane here, this whole level. So we've done the message to that, and then we've got to do a message to door 2, because the green door is going to disappear so the character can get out. But to be honest, he'll probably go through the door anyway, even if you didn't open it. But it make more sense if you just make it disappear. Looks a bit more pleasing on the eye. You have a door disappearing instead of just crashing through a door. So disappear. I spelled that right. Is that the way I've been spelling it? That'll do. See, if I get the label slightly wrong, misspelt in an area, this game will horribly go wrong. So we want to avoid at all costs. Now we're going to add the pickup now for the gun, because in the last tutorials I've done it so you can fire the gun the moment the game starts, but now you can't, because I want to add the firing mechanism when you reach the end, nearly halfway through the level, which makes it harder for the player. So I'm going to add a UV sphere, add that into here, like that up here, like, oh, for goodness sake, I don't get which the height that'll do. I think that'll do. No, it's got to be in there. I can't bother to change my view, that's the point. Right, let's do that red, so it's like it's just going to be the power up. There we go. We're going to call that, what should I call that? Gun pickup, I think. And I could model a gun, but I haven't got time to make all these models, so I'll do that if I have more time on my hands, which I should be shortly. So I'll do it at the end of the game. I'll probably start modelling stuff. So a collision with the player material again. Do the usual shenanigans, making words up. Message, and we'll put in. So we're telling the spawner now, the one that fires the bullets. We're going to have to put a control on that. It's like a parental controls for this gun. I reckon all gun owners should have parental controls on their guns. Have a password on the trigger or something. Might work. Can't get into any of that. Politics, no, stay away. Now spawner, allow fire. Okay, so I'm putting a command to this. When the player picks this ball up, they can then fire the gun. So I'm going to send the information to the spawner to release it. So I'll just do edit object, and we don't need this ball anymore, so I want to make it look like we're picking it up, so end object. And there we have it. That's all you need to do for that one. You're sending the signal out, and we're ending the object. Now the signal is going to be picked up in the spawner. So we go back to the spawner over here, which is that one, and we're going to add in a property and a message. So we're going to add in this property here and a message. Okay, so we put in the equals, and we've got added a game property here, so it add that in as allow file. Is it allow file? Yeah. For the message. Okay, so we've done that. Equals allow file is 1. So down here you just put in the message. It receives the message allow file. Oh, blimey. So when it receives the message allow file, we then add a 1 to the allow file property. So we do a property assign allow file 1. So we do that. So it receives. So when we pick up the red ball here, we send a message saying allow file to the spawner. So when the spawner receives the message allow file, it'll assign a 1 to the allow file property. So I put if the player presses the E key, which is going to be the fire key, and it's been told it is allowed to fire now because it's a certain point of the level, then it's going to fire the bullet in a direction. So we're going to add the object, and the actual object, the projectiles in. Remember the second layer here. You right mouse click on that, and we're just saying what it's always going to go in the direction from when you fire it. So it's I'll put the speed up on that so it flies out more, because before it was just bouncing out. It looked like something like water dripping out of a tap before. But I put minus 0.60 because that is the direction it's going. It's negative value across the y-axis, so it's going back towards the level, and that's where we want. We want the fires back towards the barriers, so that's why that's set like that. So now we're going to go back to the first layer and look, just double check on the spawner. I've added everything. Have I connected everything up? Yes, I have. Okay, now we're on to the last piece for today. Last instruction to get your game working. You haven't got to follow this exact, because I've tried following people in the past for whole projects and they've missed something, little detail out where you can't get your project working. So don't worry too much, because I am going to release this file so you can play around with it to make it better, or just to learn from, or just to confuse you even more. It's really up to you how you want to use this information I'm giving you. But yeah, I usually take bits and pieces from different people when I watch videos in the past, and a lot of this is just from my own experience, just playing around with controls. You just got to play around. If you don't, you're just never going to get anywhere. Got to learn from experience, like everything. So integer. So adding 2 properties here to the 4 that was already there from previous tutorials. Okay, now so we're going to add in 2 properties. We're going to add in one called allowed move, and we're going to put y positive direction. I'm going to copy all that. I'm going to paste it into the second one down here, and we're just going to put positive. That's positive. So we're making a positive and a negative one direction. So as I said before earlier about moving these, that's the positive direction. That's the negative direction. That's just basics I want that to get. So what I'm saying, when I get to this point here, it's going to send a message out. It's going to send a message out down here. Can now move those 2 directions I just showed you. That's what that trigger is sending out. So now we can move backwards or right back to the beginning of the level if you want. We're giving this player more scope, more movability, and that's what we're doing here. So now we need to add a message now. So add a message, and we'll put in here. Can now move. You can copy these if you want. So we just do it's save messing up. So we do Control C. You know to copy, hopefully. So I put that in there. I'll just check my notes because I want to make sure this is all typed in perfection. Yeah, what I'm doing now. Assign. So we do allowed. I might edit some of this out. Allowed move Y position, and we just do a 1. So we add that. Right. So now, we're adding that. So when so now we're going to add a keyboard to move that in that direction I was showing you, the positive way I was showing you. We're going to add in the W key. And again, it seems strange, but when you press the W key, the cube is going to go that way. I know that's a bit strange, but later on I'm going to probably change the camera angle round to the cube's point of view, just to freshen up the gameplay. So then the controls will already be in place for when that time actually happens. So now we're going to add in a check now. So if we add in a property, so I'm going to put if the property is allowed Y position, Y positive, so it's allowed to move in that the value of 1. So if it's in that, there's a 1 in that property, that means they're allowed to move in that direction now. So they hit the W and that is there. Hit the W and that property is there. That means they can move. So then you're going to put the character motion in, and we put it in character. Then we put 0.15. It's the y-axis, isn't it? Yes, it is. I didn't get that bit wrong. Good. And we'll save that there. Now for the next one, again we're doing the same. We're doing the same, but it's the same thing, but for the negative. So we're adding another message. So add that. And we go into this and copy it, the trigger, and we'll copy the negative one this time. Well, you want them to be the same. Like I say, if there's a spelling mistake, it's not going to work. Like yesterday, I made so many mistakes, similar mistakes of spelling mistakes, and it screwed me over. I ended up deleting things, thinking, oh, I've added too much information for us to handle, and it just worked out. I just worked out it was just a spelling mistake, so I just deleted the video I was doing yesterday and gave up. So now we've got negative. Okay, so add the keyboard. I know, just add and in first. Add that in there. Then we add in the property, and then this will be assigned to the positive. It'd be negative this time. Sorry, and we add the 1. So when the player gets to the trigger, get all the way down here, then they'll be allowed to. It's going to add a 1 to the. It's going to send a message to the player cube. When the player cube receives a message, it can now move y negative. It's going to put a 1 in, assign the 1. So when they press the I'm going to add the S key now. When they press the S key and the 1's there, they can move. Simple as that. So just do a keyboard, and we're just going to add in the S key. So we've got property, yeah, and we're just moving the motion in there. Okay, so we're in keyboard property. Okay, where's the property in? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 message keyboard property equals to -1. That's it. Add that. Yep. So if they receive the message from the trigger, it puts in the 1 to the negative. So it's 1. If the negative's got 1 in it, and they press the S, it goes in the negative and the Y. So the cube will be going to the left that way instead of that way. So yeah, that's pretty good. Let's add motion, and we'll add that as a character motion. And we do -0.15 because it's just going the totally opposite direction. Now if we add, if I dare I say this, if I will put the eye on so we can see the debug properties in case this doesn't work. Right, I'm going to try this now and just hope and pray this works. So game start, and let's have a go. 1, 2, green wall, that's good. Picked up 2 pickups, green wall came on. Oops, and now I can't play the game. Yes. And it stopped, and I can move forward, and I can move back. That's it. Bad collision with the button, but that can be fixed. Now I've got the button, can't fire because I haven't got the pickup yet. Oh, that's working fine. The computer player crashed in the barrier. So you've got to get rid of the barrier so the player can go through it, or so the computer can go through it. So that was working well when you crashed into it. Now hit the button. Then you've got to get to the fire thing quick. So it got the pick up. Fire that, yes, and it's got the barrier open for him so you can go through it. Yes, and that is it for today. Okay, you may think, oh yeah, he's gonna, oh I like it, he jumps like Minecraft, you hit something, it jumps up in the air. I like that, that's brilliant. Yeah, you might think to yourself, well what happens if there he is, back to the beginning, do a little dance, there he is, because he's got to the destination. Okay, you might ask yourself, well, what happens if he opens the pit, we open the pit? Well, don't worry about that. Yeah, when the computer character travels all the way back to the beginning, if you've got the pit open, this thing open, the character will fall down and you would die, so that'd be game over for you, that'd be bad news. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a button that the player is going to have to hit to replace the lid on this pit so the computer player can get back across safely. I'm going to make it difficult for the player to get to this switch, just to make them panic a little bit, and if they panic they might fall off the ledge and die. So there we go, so keep an eye out for that, meddlers, and I'll see you later. Bye.